yeah, so a lot of people gonna say, how can how can Lauren Hill be one of the best when she only got one body of work? But I would tell those same people how Andre 3000 is the best. My favorite rapper. And I promise you, if I put my favorite rapper against your favorite rapper, somebody not holding up to the weight of lyrics, bars, flow, everything that's gonna be presented. So, Lauren Hill deserves those accolades. And I will say, even being a Andre fan, unlike Three Stacks, she has an album to go off of. So, yeah, one of the best to ever do it, man. Miss Hill, we love you. We thank you for all your hard work, for all of your perseverance, for everything that you brought to the table. It's been an amazing journey, and I can't wait until your next concert where you actually show up, because I definitely want to go. So, yeah, man. But we're gonna keep this train going. Uh, we definitely have to talk about, we definitely have to talk about some more entertainment first. Some more entertainment. We gonna talk about this. Meg the Stallion. Everybody's dream right now. Guy, girl, animal, don't care what you are, who you are, where you come from, what planet you think you're on. Megan the Stallion has been such a bright light since she touched the stage, since she's been on the, since she's come out, since she's just been growing ever more popular, and we've all wanted to think Megan is just something we can keep to ourselves. Sadly, that's not the case no more. We sadly have to accept and realize that Megan is tied down, man. She actually has somebody in her life that cherishes her and loves her and likes her, and is with her right now, which is partisan Fontaine. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that name, but Partisan Fontaine. And she came out with a video. She came out with, on Instagram, talk about how she really liked him. How she's dating him, and how, this is going to be something fresh, which I'm happy for her, because for everything Meg's recently been through, especially with the Tory thing, and just trying to get a footing and a foothold, and excuse the expression, foothold, but trying to get a foothold on everything that's going on with her. I'm happy that she has somebody. She could have had me, but she didn't answer the DMs, so she got to just get the second best, man. And I'm happy for Party, man. Good dude. If you never heard Party, check him out. He's a rapper, an American rapper. I know most of y'all probably heard of him already, and like, bro, what you talking about? Party fountain. For the people who did not hear about him, I hope you get to hear his music. Um, and he's a great dude, man. He's never given like off like those, crazy vibes, the wild and unruly vibes. But I'm glad that Meg is going down this journey with him, man. Let's see where this goes. So, next thing though, something that we really got to talk about, and something that we really just got to acknowledge is, let's pray for Texas. Let's pray for New York. Let's pray for everywhere that's getting heavily hit by this snowstorm right now. And we know mainly Texas is really getting the brunt of this force. Millions of people are without power, without lights, electricity, water, food, shelter right now because of just how crazy the snowstorm has gotten for them. And they have Ted Cruz, who's not being a good example or a great example of how to run your state and govern your state in this period of this time. We've seen the stories where people have already said, hey, this was a possibility of happening. Hey, we should have a contingency plan. Hey, we run our grid a certain way so we can fight off things ahead of time and be in control of this, in the moment. And, it was a failure on Texas' part, man. Failure on the state's part, the law's part, on how they didn't catch up to this. And yeah, you never can be prepared for an act of God, right? You can never be prepared for a natural disaster. But there should have been a better preparation. And it's amazing because it hasn't snowed in Texas for like 30 years now. And out of nowhere you have this snowstorm. You have this thing that just hits and takes the state by shock. And I pray for those people right now that's going through this. I pray that FEMA actually, can help out and be a just cause in this. Thinking of FEMA, one of the first things that comes to mind is just Hurricane Katrina and how FEMA just didn't own up to everything during that time and fell short a lot of the people who were in that disaster, who were affected by great hurricane. And I hope and pray that with years of seeing what's going on and what has happened, that they've learned from their mistakes and that we learn from our mistakes, and that the people of Texas have a better outcome, man. FEMA right now is paying for hotels for people to stay at. There's also shelters. You can also go donate to causes of Texas, and let's do our part, man. Our community is hurting in Texas, and we just have to make a way and make a stand with them right now. So let's stand with them. Let's stand with them and stand for them. All right, guys. And I'm gonna bring you that, but then I'm also bring you. I'm not gonna try to leave y'all without I'm not gonna try to leave y'all without a social shout out. Something amazing, something just that touches our hearts, that's a good, just overall humane story for us right now in this crazy time. Give me 1 second. I'm going to it, guys. Just give me a second. Oh, and shout out to Kodak. Kodak has now found somebody to, be Mrs. Capri, and just bring on this new happiness. I'm happy for him. I'm not sure if this was the girl who's always been around while he was in jail, but I think she was. And I'm happy that now that he's out, he's getting his life back together and taking a step forward, man. He also has a new song with Lil Yachty, so shout outs to Kodak for that. And big ups to that man. I'm happy for him. Kodak, may your new life and love and marriage be a great one, and much success and happiness to you and your family, man. And rest in peace, Prince Marky D. I think that has hit the community hard, and touched us in a manner that we really weren't ready for. If you're a hip hop head, if you understand where hip hop has come from and gone, you understand Prince Marky D has been a big touch on that. And how he's influenced just the culture. One thing that I really did want to just shout out is, because it is Black History Month, we are going to recognize some of the things that black people have done. And there's a black beauty trend that was just a compilation of what black people have brought to the forefront of, society, made look beautiful and just extravagant, and just, something that's just our own and influence the culture. So I'm gonna go ahead and tell you what these things are. Shout outs to black people for colored wigs, uh, long acrylic nails, big lips, and big lip liner. You know, acrylic toenails. Think that's amazing. Uh, the baby hairs. No one does baby hairs better than a black woman. Uh, no one does, colored wigs like a black woman, especially a dark skinned black woman. I think dark skinned black women can pull off any color and just make it good. It just matches with their skin tone just amazingly. Uh, acrylic nails, acrylic toenails. The matching sets where it's blue on the hands, blue on the feet. It's just breathtaking. Uh, and then finally, gold and diamond grills. Uh, Gold and diamond grills have definitely been a thing. We've even seen our grandparents and parents with golds uh, and diamond grills and gold grills. And yeah, that's probably due to some health issues, but uh, it's it's amazing to see these things, man, because they're prevalent in our culture. These are the things that run our culture that just shows our differences, our extravagantness, our uh, just beauty and creativity, man. So this social shout out is just for being beautifully black in every way, form, and shape, and unapologetically black and being lovely and loving it. So shout outs to all black people. Shout outs to you, your melanin, every person of color. Honestly, uh, when it comes to what we do and what we do best. So uh, that's gonna be our social shout out. And man, when I tell you, uh, I have such a great guest coming and being a part of the show. I'm just excited for you to watch, for you to tune in, and for you to be a part of this next journey. It might turn into a series. We might do something with this, but let's see what you think when we get back. I love y'all. Thank y'all. We're going to be right back, all right? Okay, what's going on, guys? We are back. Man, look, you are now tuned in to the New Wave Show. And I know you looking, I know you're staring, you're like, what's going on, Taz? Uh, what we doing? First and foremost, you already know what to do. Like, share, and subscribe. This is Tasmanian the Wise Man. You're watching a Magi production, and this is the New Wave Show. So you know who I am. I'm Taz the Wise Man, but I'm gonna hand it over to probably one of the smartest, one of the
Oh,
most
stop.
driven, just greatest guys I know, went to school with and everything. Eh, Ish, man, go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you having me on your show, and I appreciate the comments. I am just another normal human being, so we'll keep it at that. Like I'm not up here like you blasting me up here, So I am a normal guy. Like we went to the same school, right?
Right,
So
right.
we're just some normal guys, but we're trying to do
Humble.
some extraordinary things. And so
Exactly.
a little bit about myself. I recently graduated from the University of Central Florida in 2020, so class of 2020.
So nice.
Um, I am a current Georgetown student pursuing my master's in real estate with concentrations in global real estate investments and development. And as for my, academic career, it went from aerospace engineering, but then ended up graduating in integrated business with a minor in entrepreneurship and with the master's now in real estate. As when it comes to, I guess, business background and financial background and whatnot, I kind of met Taz when I had my first hair care brand. That was where we got started.
Yeah.
Thought of getting some beard oils and stuff going for the community and whatnot. And from there, ended up having a beverage brand called Bougie Boba, where we had boba or bubble tea, as you guys know, be sold in bottled format into places like Marriott Hotels, Universal Studios, and a couple other hotel chains, and also 7-Elevens throughout Central Florida. Because of the pandemic, unfortunately, tourism went out the door, so did the business, and so we decided to pivot into real estate investments. And to kind of put into perspective, we are still working on that company, and we're also starting to dabble into banking. But here's a catch: we are focusing on faith-based and environmentally and social-based guidelines. So that way, people are actually taken care of, and that profits are not put first, but instead it's people.
Mm, mm. Now, I like how you said that faith-based
Hmm.
and profit is not put first, because when you automatically think about banking, you think about corporations who are so greedy for it, just
Hmm.
strictly for the dollar comes before the person. But in your case, the person comes before the dollar.
Yep.
How does that work?
So let me tell you, I guess, about what I mean by faith-based. Personally, I am a Muslim, and come from a slightly different set of rules, I would say, in a way. Um, just like how the Bible dictates that usury or the practice of charging money on money is prohibited, same way Islam is extension of that and continues that rule play, and it goes further into that, where we have full blown Islamic financial based guidelines, which dictates how our finances go, how our investments go, how our banking is, and even more so into that. Um, and of course, also how, just like any, what all faiths, proclaim is to enjoin others to do good and forbid evil. And that can mean whether it be in a societal aspect, in a financial aspect. And we decided that, okay, cool. Since we have these rules, why not try to create a new wave type of banking institution in the North American markets? Mainly because one, there's roughly 5.5, 6 million Muslims throughout US and Canada that don't have these products available. And after doing some research, we not only found that our communities need these types of products, but also minorities in general, and even people outside of the faith overall, because we realize that people want to be taken care of, and corporations have the biggest firepower. In what I believe is that corporations have the biggest firepower because they're able to implement things much sooner than governments can,
Right.
and are the ones who employ us in the first place. And so why not have a institution that inherently believes in taking care of other people, and at the same time, if you take care of people, deliver good products, you're bound to make profits off of that.
Right.
So it's it's interesting how a lot of corporations put profits first at the expense of people. But if you really empower people and bring them up to higher standards and give them the better things,
Right.
you automatically will have profits come in. And so it's interesting to see how finally now, ESG, which is a new type of guideline, environmental, societal, and governance guidelines, are
Okay.
being pushed by the UN and other institutions to make sure that companies actually take care of the environment, take care of society, and make sure that there's good governing practices.
Mm.
And I realize with Islamic rules, we already have those things in place. It's
Right.
just we need to not only do we need to make sure that our own people have these products, but as our faith commands is to help everyone, regardless of what their faith orientation is.
Yeah.
And so now we want to make a marriage between all these faith-based guidelines and all these new age governance guidelines and make a really superior environment for this type of stuff to thrive.
Wow. That man, you saving the world. That's what it sounds.
Hopefully.
Saving the world right now, man. Uh, and it's amazing to hear about that, because even just for not even just the world, but for your local person, we don't
Hmm.
usually see our corporations step in. We usually
Hmm.
see our mom and pop stores,
Stores, yeah.
the ones that usually take care of the environment, take care of the community, and take care
Hmm.
of like their own governing rules. So
Yeah.
to hear something like that from now, that mom and pop thinking to now a global thinking, it's exciting. It's exciting to
Right.
see. So
Because like, oh yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
you know, it was just so I'm glad to see that this is about to transition.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think the past couple of years, for better or for worse, have brought a lot of these issues to light. And I think it's time that we not only take care of, like, control our own lives, but also our neighborhoods and communities in a larger scheme, and really control our future destiny, which is, to make sure that we go towards greatness. And so, and it's crazy how, as your society kind of moves away towards a more um, a religious, type of background and whatnot,
Yeah.
they're missing out on a lot of things, because at the end of the day, it is our fates. Because since they are the word of God, they have the blueprint to
Right.
how to dictate. Like, I mean, if God made us, then of course He knows how to, like, give us the best rules and give us the
Right.
best
Right.
tools to make sure that we succeed. And so, and how it's crazy how you mentioned the mom and pop model, right? And
Yeah.
overall, it's a sense of community. Coming from, my faith, it's called the Ummah, which means the greater community, right?
Okay.
And that concept itself encompasses, humanity, right? Where we all are just one big village on just a very large global scale,
Right.
consisting of 7.8 billion people.
Right.
And if one part of our community hurts,
The
all
rest
of it
of us.
hurts,
Yeah. Right.
right? And so, in order to solve it, we no longer can ignore all these pains that each different part of this great body of ours is, like, we can't ignore it anymore,
Yeah.
because now it's coming up to our shores. And so when people are saying that, oh, things are going so bad, no, now you finally see it. Before, without social media and without all these mass communication platforms, we weren't able to, we were kind of immune and closed off from seeing these things from happening, or at
Right.
least knowing about it. But now it's apparent. And
Right.
so either you can complain or try to come up with a solution. And so that's what, kind of led me into this whole entrepreneurial journey of trying to solve people's problems.
I'm glad you said that. So with that solution, let's talk about the real subject.
Yeah.
Um, how do we start this banking journey for ourselves? We know, so let's just go over the basics. We know we have the check-ins account, we know we have
Mm-hmm.
our savings, and some of us even know we have investment
Mm-hmm.
accounts. But what else what else is there, or what deeper should we know about with banking, and how
Yeah.
can we put ourselves in a better opportunity to build a residual fund,
Mm-hmm.
build wealth, and not
Mm-hmm.
just have riches.
Right, exactly. And so, it's good that you bring up that question. And to add on to not just checking, savings, investments, accounts, lending is the biggest, I would say, marketplace, and the biggest factor in determining the difference between poverty and actual wealth. And so, if you look at current day practices and the practices of modern banking for maybe the last 30 or 40 years, those events and those types of practices led to what happened in 2008, right? The big, great financial crisis where people lost their homes, people lost their cars, and overall, we almost went into a Great Depression, basically, of the 21st century.
Yep.
And so, to kind of start off with basic checking accounts, right? To have a checking account, cool. Like, everyone needs it. You need a safe place to store your money. Now, the issue becomes, where you start having these fees involved, right? Where if you have overdraft fees, it makes no sense. If I don't have money and you have the computer algorithm to show that I'm about to make a purchase that I can't afford,
Right.
why can't you block that? And then two, let's say it does happen. It
Mhm.
doesn't, there's no system to block it. I overdraft my account. I don't have money. Then you're going to charge me money for not having money?
Right.
You see where this starts leading towards people becoming more impoverished and having less purchasing power? That's
Right.
just the first, sign. And all these different weird transaction fees and just fees on fees on fees. Cool, I get it for monthly maintenance fees. It makes sense because you obviously need to run a bank, you need to run the employees and all through the fees and everything, you're able to pay your employees, right?
Right.
However, there should be a limit. It shouldn't be where I get slammed a fee here, slammed a fee there, overdraft, ATM fee charge. Like it at UCF, right? We have all the ATMs. Now, if I don't have a particular bank that doesn't use this ATM, I get charged for using the ATM that doesn't belong to my bank. If I'm trying to withdraw $10 and I have to pay another dollar out of that, that's a 10% cut of now instead of getting a nice little Hoo Magoo's platter, I can only get like half a sub at Subway because now I have $9. And so then it goes into savings and investments and check and those types of accounts, right? Unfortunately, today we see not the best or in the past, history of traditional banking. It's very shady, the practices. They'll start investing into things such as, diamond mines or even coal mines,
Mhm.
where if they're in a foreign country, they might not have the same standards that they have here in the US or in Europe. So you might have your investment profits coming from the investment interest that you're getting on your savings account might be coming from really unethical sources, might be coming from a blood mine in, sub-Saharan Africa or Central Africa,
Mhm.
right? Or it could be coming from environmentally sensitive places throughout the Pacific region or throughout other regions in South America.
Right.
And there's no way to really track and well, there are options out there that are sustainable and ethical, but it's not as widespread as it should be. And to think that the bank basically takes all your savings accounts, which let's say 10 people have $100,000 total. They take the 100K, go invest it, and then at the same time they only give you quarter of a percent, 1%, 2% now.
Mhm.
Inflation is at 2%. You're barely beating inflation. If not, you're actually not even beating inflation. So your money in your savings account is losing value now. And so it goes even further into your lending practices. Not everyone technically deserves to own a home or a car because not everyone can afford it. And you shouldn't be purposely getting into these debt instruments that basically they're going to default at some point and you basically take over their house or their car. And then let's focus on the housing market. You basically now it's just if it's just one person, cool, it might not make a difference, right? But now if 10, 15, 20 thousands of people start defaulting and you take over their houses, what does the bank do? They either wait to resell it at a higher profit point while kicking out the person who lives there and can't afford it, and then causing homelessness at the same time by kicking them out,
Right.
even though it's not their fault. And then you sell it to these major corporations that go ahead and buy these places in bulk. They buy tens of thousands of units at a time.
Right.
And then they rent it back to you when the economy starts getting better again. And they keep jacking up rental rates. And then what happens? There's nothing wrong with making money, but
Right.
if the rich become exponentially richer, what happens? The poor become exponentially poor,
Or yep.
which is what we're starting to see this split happen, or what is known as a K recovery. And because it's like shape of a K. And
Right.
so and all this comes back down to one basic principle of usury, right? Which is charging money on money. It's such a regulated place. You and I can't just go out and start charging money on money, right? We have to get these regulations and all this kind of stuff, and then we can start lending. But banks, over time, they get it's power of compounding, right? Exponential growth. But at the expense of who? people like you and me,
Yep.
right? Where basically it just gets worse and worse and worse. Unless, the very few small, smart people who, whether we struggle a lot, destiny, or whatever the case might be, are able to join the exponential curve upward. But still, there's that widening gap. And so that's why, it kind of came down to Islamic banking, right? Where that principle is it's gone. You can't use it. Like you can't charge money on money.
Yeah.
And instead, lending becomes a practice of empowerment and equity. So for example, if you need to borrow $100, right, to buy maybe a bicycle, we as a bank, one of the options that we have is as a bank, we go ahead and purchase the bicycle for $100. But let's say you had a $10 down payment, right? You had 10% equity in the beginning, bank has 90% equity.
Right.
Now, over time, it's like a rent to own agreement. So we can sell this item back to you at a profit, right? Which is normal. It's like buying a bottle of Coke and then selling it for a higher price. Except now you have payments involved. Over time, you gain equity into your item until you've fully gained 100% equity. And here's the kicker. In the event of you losing your job, or your health goes bad, or for whatever reason you can't make payments, we can't just go ahead and foreclose your property like that, or the item, whatever the case might be. Instead, we have to give you a forbearance. We actually have to wait until you get a better job and help you.
Wow.
So we had to wait for a pandemic to make these clauses happen, right? Rent freezes, mortgage freezes, and everything because of a national pandemic, international pandemic. We already have those values built in to actually help people, right?
Wow.
See how it helps people?
Yeah.
And on top of that, the fact that, it's less headaches and you're encouraged to do better because it's like, oh, cool. Like, I don't, and here's the thing. Let's say you can't get your job, you can't whatever, and you have to sell the house. We have to go into foreclosure process. You have equity in that foreclosure.
Right.
In
Exactly.
the traditional method, you don't. Doesn't matter if you're 70% off, 70% of the way paid off.
Right.
You lost everything. Here, if you're 70% of the way there, you're entitled to 70% of those sales coming in from the foreclosure.
Wow.
Which creates what? Wealth, right?
Right.
Because you don't have to start from scratch again. You actually, over time, have built up the equity like you should have been doing.
Yeah.
And it makes total sense. It could be in a car, and then credit cards, right? As far as I know, because since we can't charge usury, we can do like debited, transactions or whatever, right? And so we can't be charging you 22% on like what? A piece of plastic?
Yeah, no.
And how absurd is that? It's a credit card. It's basically a mini loan at the end of the day.
Right.
You're going to charge me 22%? Again, what if I lose my job? Now the cost of debt becomes exponentially higher, which makes me what? Exponentially poor.
Yep.
And then other things to consider. In our ways of determining who's creditworthy, we're much more we're actually more strict on giving out loans because one, the risk factor, right?
Right.
Since we could have a whole different discussion on like mortgage packages, CDOs, and all these different things that led to the 2008 crash, but we can't just give you a loan because with this inherent greed thrown out, we basically, and because we can't take over your asset if you default, and we can't just charge money on money and create an endless supply of money in a way. It takes away all that greed and makes it a much more natural, holistic growth process for both the community and the individual.
Right.
And so we basically instead of credit scores, we look at payment histories. In addition, the credit score is not the biggest thing for us. If your income, your debt levels, and your payment history are good, and you don't have a credit score, that's fine, because this stuff is done across the world, where credit scores are not really used to determine your credit worthiness. Instead, it's to use what kind of occupation you have, and to see you as a whole person, not just a number.
Right.
To give you that opportunity to go chase the house that you want, the car that you want, and all these things, but in a much more controlled environment and much more safer way to do so.
Right. Which is so funny because it seems as when we have credit, it's
Mhm.
when we have credit, it's easier to do these things. But when you don't have credit and you've been maintaining a good pay history on
Mhm.
things, it's like you can't do anything. And it's so amazing to me because that's not the case, like you said, across the world,
Mhm.
across the nation.
Yeah.
Uh, it's more of if you knew the responsibility you were taking, then you know what
Mhm.
it comes with, and you know how to pay that off. But
Yeah.
it seems just like in the U.S. we have this thing where you can't do anything without, hey, is your credit in the good standings? Is this? It's like what do and it's like how do we even get it in good standings? Like
Yeah.
with all the barriers that you're bringing to continue to
Mhm.
hold us back from that good standing.
And and if you look at global history,
Mm,
especially in traditional banking and whatnot, you see that there is systemic racism built into it, right?
right.
Coming from a real estate background, it wasn't even until the '80s that were divided neighborhoods were outlawed. Before, like if a it was called blockbusting, right?
Mhm.
Blockbusting, where basically if a black person moves into your neighborhood, agents were legally could just with no repercussion go tell the neighbors, hey, look, there's a black person in your neighborhood. Go sell your house because they're going to take over the neighborhood now, right? And bring all the crime from everything, all these different things. And then what happens? All the minorities come into the neighborhood, funding gets cut, all this kind of stuff because throughout history we weren't being able to have all these better jobs and have these higher incomes and all these things. And then by cutting our funding, you're basically putting us in perpetual poverty
Yep.
because without education, without these financial tools, how are
How
we supposed to?
the game.
We
Yeah.
can't gain, right? And now we're finally starting to see some sort of equality in
Hmm.
this playing field. But then it goes back to what Islamic rules are. We can't discriminate based on skin color. Like the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, told us that there is no superiority of a black man over a white man or a white man over a black man.
Right.
And this stuff is built into our banking culture, where it's just like it's based on you, like what you can deliver and what who you are,
Mm.
not based on what your skin tone is, what your religious affiliation is, what your orientation is. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's based on you. And so that's why Islamic banks they're prevalent in countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, and Northern Africa. Um, but it's before we didn't have these opportunities because our populations here in the United States and North America in general weren't high enough.
Hmm.
But now there's so many similar things. Like now you're seeing that we're open to everyone,
Yeah.
and it helps build our communities. It empowers us to go further and go and actually make a difference because now we're encouraged to do so, right? And do good things and make sure that we can invest back into communities. And so this type of stuff, that's why now like I realize, the past couple of months and years, I was like, it's not just for Muslims itself, it's for everyone. And so this is what my mission has become to make sure that people know about this and
Mm-hmm.
two, be able to deliver services to these types of services to everyone.
So with that, how do we? Because we definitely got to figure out how can the everyday man become a part of this journey with you. Like, where do we go? Where do we sign up? Because it sounds like, look, man, if I can go ahead and buy something, and y'all are not going to charge me the interest rates
Mm-hmm.
that you know every other bank will charge me, and y'all are really going to look at me for my value, then I
Mm-hmm.
definitely want to be a part of it.
Right?
So
Yeah.
how do we do this?
So currently, there are some limited options.
Mm.
There are some mortgage companies that follow Islamic, guidelines. They're called Islamic mortgage companies or halal mortgages.
Mhm.
And halal means permissible in our faith. And
Okay.
so there are some companies. I'm more than happy to give you guys a list, and you guys can go check them out. And they currently have mortgages available and some limited scope when it comes to commercial lending as well. And so if you guys want to go start your own business, start, open up a new restaurant, right? Or open up a new clothing store or something that, brings value to the communities, they can at least help you get started. And as for my personal venture, it's called Wad Bank. And Wad in Arabic means open, clear, and transparent. This is what it like. The reason why I chose that name was because that's what our principles are about: being transparent, being open, being honest. And so we wanted to. So currently, right now, we're building up our waiting list, which is crazy how you mentioned signing up for a list. And so you can go on
Oh,
wadbank.com. We'll also give you guys, the list link as well.
right.
And currently, right now, it's just to get as many people as to sign up and eventually bring on these services for you guys. Mainly because of the fact that, you know, we, both the African American community and Muslims in general, share a lot of history,
Yeah.
right? Because from bad histories to good histories, right? We share it. And the fact that we get to work with each other and to make sure that we all grow and we all thrive and we all get to eat at the table
Right.
is the biggest, the biggest blessing that we can possibly have. For us and for our team and our company, it's not, again, it's not about money at the end of the day, right? It's
Right.
because we're commanded to make sure that we make people come to good things and do good things.
Mm.
And this is part of it, where you're not just going to be signing up for just to save money or whatever, but you're really truly signing up to start your journey on impacting communities, not just locally, but on a global scale.
Mm.
And so, and truly make, a difference. And it might, and who knew, like a simple savings account could have so much impact. It could, because we can't, one of the restrictions that we have when it comes to investments is we can't invest into alcohol. We can't invest into adult content. We can't invest into weapons of mass destruction. We can't invest into gambling. We can't invest into other,
Right.
impermissible things.
Right.
We can only invest into wholesome, good things
Healthy things
for
for you.
everyone.
Wow. That's and that's even more amazing. That's even more amazing because it definitely makes you now you have to think on what can you do better.
Yeah,
Like you can't just be like, okay, I'm gonna do the same thing everybody else doing and trying to, you know, run the money to the community in the same way. Now you have to actually take your time out and say, you know what, what's different and healthy and wholesome for the community
yeah.
that can actually better it and bring in the profit to better make it look better and be better. That's amazing.
And see, like, it was Boys in the Hood, right? With Lawrence Fishburne, right?
Yeah.
If you remember, there's this one line where he mentions that think about how the neighborhoods are meant to make us be more, basically never really reach our full potential.
Right.
Anytime there's an lower income community, it doesn't matter if it's African American or any other minority or anywhere across the globe, you'll always have liquor stores, you'll always have drugs. They
Yep.
always put these things specifically in these places
Yep.
because they won't invest in your education. So what happens? You can't get a good job. How are you going to feed yourself? Oh, I'm gonna start trapping and do all these different,
Right.
illegal activities. But it's based out of survival, not just it's because it's like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. What else
And
can
then what can you do? And then now you label me as a criminal consistently, and then for minor, offenses, I can't get a job or go to school ever again.
right.
And there's no, there's no, the money is never circulated properly. It goes to things that literally just destroy and drain the community.
Yep. Yep.
And that's on a local level. And on a corporate level, we as companies can't just be going into projects that go ahead and like raise the Amazon rainforest. We can't be doing that. And so as a bank, with your money that you're entrusting us with, we have to make sure that we make that everything is set into good things. and long-term wealth, right? By improving the environment, improving society, and making sure there's better governing practices. All that money comes back, and over time of generation after generation, you have
Mm-hmm.
more and more successful people.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. That's amazing because it's just being a loss for words because you don't see these practices enough.
And you don't, and
You don't see these
it's an honor to be in this on this show, right? To give, even though it might be a small audience, or even one day a larger audience, right?
Right.
The fact that it starts with just one person, right?
Yeah,
You
come
know
on.
about this now, and
Yep.
then your audience is going to start knowing about it. Their families are going to know about it, and slowly but surely, as our firm grows, and as more companies are encouraged to do the same thing, that's the whole point. Is to get it's kind of like the Tesla model, right? You
Right.
bring in some crazy cool product, right, and then everybody else is going to do it. But that's the whole point, to make sure everybody else does cool, crazy cool things, so that way it's like a snowflake becomes an avalanche, right?
Right.
So
That-
this is that effect where it just starts with one little speck and then it becomes this large thing. Except it
Oh
won't be
man.
just
And look, man, and not to cut you off, but we are very thankful to have you, man.
yeah, of
You
course.
know, that's the whole point of the show. It's when we were doing the concept writing and trying to figure out how to reinvent the show, because this show, a lot of people may not know, but uh a few years back it was the Flair. So
Mhm.
the Flair of Miami, um, and because venues had to change and people had to change and a lot of things behind the scenes, we had to reinvent it. And New Wave is now just about trying to push the mentality of let's think different, let's think better.
Mhm.
Uh, let's talk about the spirituality of things. Let's
Yeah.
talk about the economics of things. Let's talk about the everyday entertainment of
Mhm.
things. How we really feel, not only as a people, but as a people of color. You
Yeah.
know, I don't think we have. I think we try so much to be under uh the corporation of society that doesn't understand what we talk about, how we're doing things, and how we naturally know everything that's going on. But how
Mhm.
do we get from under so we can tell you and show you that we know what's going on?
Right.
So
And it's all part of the process, right?
that's it.
So, definitely, guys, don't forget to subscribe and like his channel. And don't forget to, sign up for the link that will probably be up here or down below.
Right.
And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm available on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and Taz as well is always available for any, redirecting as well.
Anytime, man. Y'all already know. Look, this has been Taz the Wise Man. This has been a Magi Productions. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for showing
Yeah, of
out.
course.
And remember, it's not a low tide, it's a new wave. So
It's a
thank y'all
new
again.
wave. New wave.
Shit.
All right.